Welcome to Outside the Frame, a podcast for wedding industry professionals to learn how to be better humans in business and life.
We're your hosts,
Caitlin of Skywater Photo and Film,
and Kaylin of Wandering Wildflower Films. We're here to create a supportive and meaningful space for diverse voices to discuss social and personal issues that impact wedding pros.
Our hope is that collectively, we can bring more of ourselves and the things that matter to the forefront of our work in the wedding industry and give all of us the courage to focus our business around who we are and what we care about.
We're so glad you're joining us. Thanks for tuning in. Officiant Jimmie is a wedding and elopement professional who is now in his 7th year doing what he does best, marrying couples who are in love while amplifying their voices. He is passionate about making others feel seen and heard. He is known for going any length to deliver the best ceremony for all of his couples. Whether that means weaving inside jokes into his scripts that will leave all in attendance laughing, or intimate callbacks in your history that make you overwhelmed with emotion. He has made it his goal to modernize and update what we know as the tried and true part of the wedding day. As an ally for all in the LGBTQIA+ spaces, or just a friend for anyone who's going through it during the getting married process. Jimmie is a friend when you need, and at all times a professional who will advocate for what is right. As someone who would never be caught dead standing there as the couple kisses, he has also been known to jump into a lake to get out of the way as any true professional would. Welcome so much, Jimmie. And I feel like to start off, I need to hear the story of the lake and like where that started, how that came up. Just tell us everything.
First off, thank you so much for that intro. I'm so flattered. You guys are so nice to me. And secondly, to give the backstory on the lake jumping, it was a very simple occasion. It was September 2023, so 2 years back now. I was marrying a beautiful couple, and they were like absolutely awesome, super laid back and chill. They're getting married at Trillium Lake, just right there outside of close by Timberline Lodge. And where they were getting married was this little like dock. It was almost like a here, but not quite. And it was going to be just a small micro wedding with them and like about like 6, 7 other family members. And ordinarily, when I step out of the way for a kiss, it's easy for me to get around. But we were kind of kitty cornered, literally in the corner of this dock, and because the background was absolutely stunning, it was at sunset. The mountain was back there, and I was like, okay, if I have to get out of the way for the kiss, I'm gonna have to either step over the groom's back legs, or I'm gonna have to like just duck behind the couple, which you know me, I don't mind or shy away from being weird, but it's also like I want to make sure they can get the photos that they want for the kiss. So I was like, all right, what can I do? And I noticed that there's this little gap in the railing of the actual dock themselves, obviously, where it's supposed to be like people can jump in and go swimming. So I was talking to Calvin and Joanne, the couple, and I was like, okay, so listen, hear me out. Ordinarily, when I step out of the way for the kiss, I like can just step around. But since we're kind of like trapped here, can I just jump in the water behind you guys? Is that like cool? And Joanne, being the badass bride that she was like, "Oh my God, please do that. We're not going to tell our families ahead of time. It's going to be so funny." So, sure enough, we do the thing. We have the ceremony. Everything's going great. And then I mentioned to them how, well, like, now they can seal it with a kiss. I don't even think twice. I just like turn, immediately hop over the side and jump right into the water. And the videographer that day, Wildflower Collective, I believe was her name. Jess, I'm sorry if I forgot your Instagram handle. She was videoing the whole thing, and as you see me jump into the water, you very clearly hear some gasps in the background, like, and as the bride and groom are kissing, the bride's cracking up, and she's like, "Oh my God, he actually did it."
What's been the coldest one that you've jumped into?
Oh gosh, that was that was Lake Crescent up in Olympic National Park. But what's weird about that is I did Lake Crescent at 2 different times of the year, once in October and then another time in April. And in October, it wasn't that bad. That's the pinned video you can actually see on my Instagram page, me jumping in there like after the couple gets married, running in. But the second time, it was off their actual dock that they have right by the like Lake Crescent Lodge. And when I jumped in, the water was freezing cold. I'm in like a full-on suit, and I was like, "Oh God, please don't drown on these people's wedding day. Otherwise, they're gonna forever hate me, and I'm gonna feel super bad about that." And as I'm climbing back up onto the dock, Justin with Wild Hair Film, he's like, "Hey, I think you lost your handkerchief in the water." And me, especially being raised in the elopement world, I'm a leave no trace guy. And I was like, "Oh, bitch. And so I jumped back in the water and grabbed the handkerchief and climbed back out. And I was very cold at that point.
Do you always make sure that you're not wearing any hot mics or cell phones at that point?
Absolutely. I'm a professional,
Yeah.
madam. Thank you very much. I'm never going to be in the background for a kiss. I'm never going to jump into the water with any electronics on me. That's just, that's bad karma.
Of course, of course.
Oh yeah, I just love how just you're like, let's do it. Let's jump in.
Well, you guys know what it's like, especially on your end, when a couple like is trying to think of something and you just can't help but be like, okay, how can we make this happen for you guys? Like, let's just like move mountains. It's not that big of a deal. We'd be more than happy to make the impossible happen for you guys. And it's just one of those things where whether it's writing a ceremony that's like interfaith with two couples who or with a couple who have two different backgrounds, or me just jumping into water, it just seems like the, like no nonsense kind of answer.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that.
I'm just curious how you got started into officiating it to begin with. I mean, you feel like you've got this like whole different persona from most other officiants I know out there. And so it just makes me really curious. Like give us this backstory.
Well, it's a funny backstory actually, because I myself, not to get political here, but I myself am a recovering Catholic, which means I am much more spiritual and open-minded, especially with, people who come from like different backgrounds or people who are same-sex attracted. I'm a big believer in like there's a God out there. He put us all on this earth to love one another to the best of our abilities, and that's my philosophy. That's simple as that. I had two friends of mine way back in the day, Dawn Photo and her husband, like now husband, but he was like a really close friend of mine back in high school. When they got engaged, out of nowhere, they sprung on me like, "Hey, we would love for you to be our wedding officiant." And me, I'm like, "Oh, guys, like I am so flattered, but are you sure I'm the guy? Like, I don't like this doesn't seem like the kind of thing that I might be good at." And Dawn was so funny because she was like, "Oh, trust me, I've seen hundreds of these. You've got the exact kind of personality. You're perfect for it. Just we trust you. Do your research and you'll be fine." And so me naturally with my partner Meg, we're like, "Oh, fuck, how do we do this? What's like a good wedding ceremony? How do we make it like work? How do we make sure that it's like something that's good versus something that's cringe?" And it turns out that when it comes to getting married, there's a lot of stuff that people assume has to happen, which it's actually kind of crazy because it's not at all accurate. So we just wrote about the two of them, wrote about love, talking about like how they happen to, just like be in this moment and yada yada yada. And Chris Mai with Good Coast Studio was their videographer, and we did it up at Diablo Lake. So it was kind of like just one of those like stumbled into the right time, right place, right kind of thing. Because he made this absolutely beautiful wedding video. It was at this really cool location. Dawn is a very popular photographer. She's extremely talented. And so I decided after I had so much fun doing that, I was like, oh, maybe I'll create an Instagram page and see what it goes from there. And after I created the Instagram page and was just kind of like figuring out like what to do, like trying to think like, okay, what hashtags to use, how to location tag, yada yada yada. I have a background in social media work with Dutch Bros. I did a lot of Dutch Bros branding and social media content in Eugene, and it got noticed by HQ. So I learned a lot of stuff in that back end. So I took that with me as I was doing the officiating thing. The Foxes up in Washington, they saw my stuff and they're like, "Hey, we have this couple. They're looking to get married, and we saw that you like did Don's wedding, which is super cool. Do you hike?" And me being the very novice, innocent-minded man that I was at that time, I was like, "Oh yeah, I love hiking. It's so great." Not realizing that both Gabby and Brandon are rock climbing experts and they rock climb for fun. Like literally, even just yesterday on Brandon's Insta story, he was like just climbing like it was nobody's business. It's like, yeah, I can do a hike, no big deal. And we did this elopement. I want to say it was up in Hurricane Ridge. And it was like a good like 3-4 mile hike, but it was all incline and it was super strenuous, very sweaty and intense. And don't get me wrong, like everything was stunning on that day. I definitely had to take like a half hour in between like me hiking versus me getting changed in my clothes and like doing another ceremony. It was just that thing of I gotten started with officiating by two friends who asked me, and then it just so happened that the timing was right where another set of photographers who were stupid talented and popular saw me as well, and they're like, "Hey, let's take a chance on this guy," and then it just kind of snowballed from there.
And how long ago was that? You said 7 years?
7 years, so 2018.
Were you anticipating that this was going to be a full-time thing? Because it sounds like it was more just like oh, let's test this out and see how it goes. So at what point did it become like, oh no, this is my thing now?
I would say like by the time I was done with my first full year, I had this thought like, oh, if I do like maybe 2 or 3 weddings a summer, that'd be kind of cool. And then it just became this thing where more and more people started like finding me by pure chance or pure happenstance. And then by the time it was my second year, like fully done, me and Meg, we sat down, we talked about it. I was working full time at a middle school here in Eugene as an educational assistant, just kind of like being a advocate for the students, but also letting them have an adult they can talk to that's not an authority figure or a teacher. Like I even joke that sometimes the kids liked me more because I could be meaner to them than most teachers, and for some reason that gave them like value and respect. It's a whole thing. We can't get into that right now. But by the time the second year was done, I was getting way, way, way more bookings than I expected. We also had our daughter, Charlotte, who's 5 now. The April of 2020, which was right when shutdown, lockdown had happened, and everything was like closing up. And I always joke with people that it's kind of like that scene from Pulp Fiction when the guy busts out of the bathroom and like unloads on Jules and Vincent, but none of the bullets hit them because everyone in the industry was talking about how they were like losing bookings or had people cancel and yada yada yada. And here I was having this newborn baby and having a calendar that was already like blocked off for like 3 4 months with no bookings at all. And then after that, a lot of people were doing the elopement thing or doing the like, let's just go to this random location and get married real quick. Let's do a micro wedding and yada yada yada. And I had people who were just booking me like 2 3 weeks in advance because I was just a guy who was like, yeah, you want to meet at this desolate I sketch looking location? That sounds fine to me. Let's do it.
Super cool. I feel like it's a whole different perspective having you on than most of our guests so far have obviously been in the photo video space, and we're really trying to branch out and bring different perspectives on. And I can't even imagine, especially having your first few initial gigs be kind of in the outdoors and on these trails and these cool locations. I feel like it sounds very different than the avenue that most officiants take in that space.
It is. And it's actually kind of crazy too, because I had like when we got to meet last year at Wedding MBA, Caitlin, I was telling you how it's like just so funny that I kind of like tripped into this very meaningful and successful like path in my life. Not that I don't think that I by any means am the wrong guy for it. It just so happens that I had a bunch of like little things in the background and life just kind of like setting these like things in place where one day I came into this officiant role and it just felt natural. Like having, for example, me being a person of color, being a black person in the PNW is a very like isolating, awkward, and weird upbringing and experience, but it also teaches you how to just roll with the punches or just be thrusted into like unknown situations with no parameters, no guidelines. It's just being like, nope, we got to figure it out. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to an elopement and been like, so we just found out that so and so is not going to make it, and the bride and groom are kind of freaking right now. We don't know what to do. I'm like, all right, let's just kind of like, we'll just figure it out as we go along, or we'll just pretend that it's all intentional. It just happens to be that thing where I am kind of like the ringleader for like a good 20 to 30 minute window where I get to be like, all right, everyone, here's what we're going to do with our emotions, and this is how we're going to feel about it, and just get to play with those and like elevate off of them. I always like to, even when I'm doing a ceremony and officiating, if I like can see I made the bride like cry like happy tears, the groom get emotional, I like to make sure I look at the photographer and throw them a wink, like, yeah, you're welcome for this moment right now.
Oh, that's great.
It is one of those things where we love what we do so much that when we're doing it well, it's almost like we're like, playing like we're just like it's like when somebody's like doing a choreographed dance and they're doing like some like extra jazz hands in there where it's like, oh, we're crushing this shit right now.
I love that you bring a lot of your personality and you're like just so authentic. Like even just speaking to you right now, this is the first time we're meeting. I'm like, this is Jimmie. Like I can see you fully and you just 100% you. Is that intentional with your business? Because I know you talk about it, authenticity online, but is that something that you're doing intentionally? Is it just kind of who you are? Like how do you bring that into your business?
I guess for me, bringing it to my business, it's just a part of who I am. It's just always who I've been. Because so much of my life, especially being like a teenager and in my 20s, trying so hard to fit a certain mold or be something for everyone else all the time, it just got to be exhausting. Not that I ever was inauthentic in doing it. I'm just a people pleaser by nature. My therapist tells me all the time where she's like, maybe you should just be happy with who you are because a lot of people are happy with who you are. And I'm like, Kirsten, you don't know what you're talking about. Like, we'll keep doing more sessions, but that can't be right. But it just became this thing where growing up, I was so badly trying to find a person for me for support that in those times I never fully found that being in anyone else. And then I thought, well, if I can be that being for someone else, maybe that'll kind of like be reciprocal. Like if I give that to someone else, I'll get it back in return. And it just was one of those things that as it went along and life just kept on happening, I just have always been kind of a hype man for like fellow human beings or trying to be that person for other people. Like, even when I did work in the middle school, the kids would come up to me and be like, oh my God, school sucks, or like, I'm having the worst day ever. And I just like, yeah, school does suck. Today is probably not a great day, but at the very least, right now, what can we do to kind of turn it around? Do you want to go grab a milk? Do you want to go just like sketch in the library for a little bit? Or do you just want to vent and just have someone who can listen? And for me, also, especially being in the wedding space, I didn't really have a guide on how to do it correctly. Like, I love the stand-up comedian Mike Birbiglia because he talks about how when you see gymnasts when they're doing like freestyling or they're like just dancing on the mat and they're just like doing flips and stuff, if they make a mistake, even if it's like an absolute like bomb of a choreographed like moment and stuff, they'll always throw their arms up and just act as if it's intentional. And that's just what I've always been, is the person who's like, even if I'm just making a huge flub or I'm just got like a blooper or like egg in my face, I throw my arms up and I'm like, yep, that's exactly how it's supposed to go. Especially on social media, being a millennial, we know what it's like to be marketed towards or being sold something or being told like, hey, this is the thing you need. Instead, I'd rather be the dude who, like the best way I can put it is, instead of having the brand new, shiny, polished, trendy looking spot or like this very exciting sky bar with all these fun like tapas or fun cocktails, I want to be the dive bar that's like withstood the test of time, the one that's like recession proof, that's been running for 30 years, that's sketch as hell, but always seems to keep doing well enough in business where people are like, okay, is this place haunted or do they have like a secret formula here? Like what's the rub?
Oh my God. I love that. Naturally, I think we end up trying to mold because we want to fit into the space, right? We want to belong. We want to see other people like us. But I think that we find so much more happiness when we're just ourselves and we're authentically living. And like, yeah, we are that dive bar. And we're like, yeah, nobody can judge us because we've been here and it works.
Exactly. Like I can tell you right now that Caitlin and I have never done a wedding together, but we have had this parasocial like friendship for years on Instagram. That the first time we saw each other in person at Wedding MBA, it was just like saying the whole friend, like, "Oh, what up,
Mhm.
thug? How you doing?"
Yeah, it was great. No, I love that if you're somebody that can put yourself out there and be authentic, like you were saying earlier, it allows that reciprocation. And I feel like that's not
Mhm.
just true for like wedding vendor friends, but also for your couples, right? For all of our couples. It just, if we come at social media and showing our true selves, then like it allows them to feel immediately more comfortable being their true selves.
And even to go off on top of that, we are in such a weird timeline right now where we are so connected on everything, on every app, phone, device, everything like that. But we have never felt more disconnected than our fellow humans. And then we have these people who are in one of the most vulnerable moments in their life where they're like, okay, we need to do this impossible thing of capturing our emotions, our romance, our history, our lore as like we grow together and becoming a family. We need to put ourselves in a very vulnerable spot with a complete stranger. How do we do that? And I almost feel like it's like when you have those weird vibrations, like if you can just kind of like put your vibes out there and show other people like, hey, I'm a weirdo too, but this is who I am, that gives them more of a comfort rather than being like, okay, well, we don't exactly fit that aesthetic, or oh my gosh, this photographer works at like all these beautiful like venues and like and goes to Italy and stuff. Like we probably wouldn't fit that vibe either. So it's just the matter of just being really real to who you are and letting people be like, all right, maybe they can really show us who we are in return.
Yeah, we're in this weird time right now too, where there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. One of the questions I was going to ask you kind of touches on a lot of that, right? Like, not just being authentic to who you are, but also we've talked about this in several of our episodes so far about showcasing yourself and where you stand, what your values are. Kind of tell us a little bit about how you feel about all of that right now. I've obviously been following you for a really long time as, Instagram friends. seeing a lot of posts about, even stuff that like doesn't relate to you or your brand at all. The cool videos that you shared for Black History Month, showing yourself at the No Kings protest and stuff like that. Kind of tell us a little bit more about why you think that it's so important for you to be sharing a lot of that, especially in a time like this. Even despite the fact that we're in, the wedding industry, but why is that so important to you to showcase a lot of that?
I think it's important for me, at least in my own perspective on showing that kind of stuff, is because especially now with how the world's kind of going, me having two toddlers myself, and just trying to figure out like where I fit in the history as it's being written in real time, it's important for me to be a vocal like whether it's a dissonant or somebody who is just somebody who can say like, yo, this isn't right or this is wrong. I don't want to be that person who can just like sit back or just feel like numb to everything that's happening. Like even by nature, like all of us, like the three of us right here, Caitlin, Jimmy, we are like empaths. We are people who are meant to feel in such a deep way for our fellow humans. Hence why we work in an industry where we serve our fellow humans at the utmost capacity we can. It's important for me to feel I am at least trying to do something, even if it's not really moving the needle in any big meaningful way. It still says something for me to let people know like, no, I see what's happening too and this pisses me off, or I can see the tragedies that are happening around us and I'm speaking up because this is the only time I might have where I have any sort of sense of a platform or following to speak up and be vocal about it. Actually, I'm a speaker for the group I got ordained with, American Marriage Ministries, where we do this once every other month, officiating accelerator in a different city. And next week, I'm actually going out to Chicago to do more speaking about social media and all that stuff. And one of the things I always tell people is you have to be a real person. Like if you want to be successful in this business or in life, you have to be who you are. And in a sense, you have to find a way to be unapologetic and forgive yourself for being the person you are. I have a sister who is pansexual. I have multiple cousins who are gay themselves. So being raised in a church and being told that these people who I grew up with, who I would die for and love more than anything else in the world, are evil or wrong just never made sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me to see people in LGBTQ spaces have their rights taken away. It doesn't make sense to me to see what's happening in Gaza and being told I'm a bad person for saying free Palestine. It makes sense to me to love every person, no matter how frustrating or fucking taxing it might be, as much as I can, because there's too much wrong and hate going on in the world. And being a person who works in a space that is all about love and just, romance and affection, I can't just be that when it's time to be clocking on and time to clock off. Like even being at the No Kings protest, I spoke to this lovely elderly woman because it was here in Eugene, and afterwards, me and my family went to the farmers market because we passed by and we're buying produce, and we saw some people with signs, and this elderly woman was like, "Oh yeah, it's so great for you guys to bring your children out here, but isn't it kind of frustrating? You just feel like it doesn't really make a difference whether or not we do it." And I said, "No, absolutely not." I was like, "This made a huge difference to me." And she was like, "Oh, really? Why is that?" And I said, because it proves to me that I'm not crazy. It proves to me
Mm.
that other people see this stuff too. And no matter how much the algorithm tries to tell me otherwise, people know that this is something that is bothering them to their deepest core. And we might not be able to, overthrow the government as much as we want to eat the rich, but we can at least join together and join hands and just be like, yo, this ain't right. And I just always look at the people in my history from my culture or the people I grew up respecting, and they were the ones who always said something rather than sitting back and saying nothing. Like Nina Simone could have been the Beyonce of her time, but instead she went to Carnegie Hall and played Mississippi Goddamn, which is a biting critique of America during that time point. And instead of her going on to get the flowers that she deserved, she was just somebody who is an icon for what she was, but never anything past the point of being timeless in that sense. Because America doesn't look back kindly on people who say the right things at the wrong time.
Yeah,
Sorry, that
completely
was a
agree.
bit of
No.
a word vomit.
And I think it's powerful to be shared because a lot of us think, oh, well, this is our business, right? We're not supposed to share about our political views, our social issues, or anything like that. I've even seen people post like, man, I hate when businesses are political. Like, why do you have to become political? And that just pisses me off.
Mhm.
And I'm sure for the two of you, it's the same. So I am curious, since you are so vocal, Jimmy, have you gotten some pushback from anyone?
Oh, yes. Oh my God. Yeah, absolutely. I hate to I hate to kind of like, do a mask off moment here, but the PNW is a painfully white place and is very uncomfortable with sometimes having that whiteness pointed out. Not even the sense of like, oh, this is terrible. It's like, no, it's just it is what it is. Like, I'm sorry, you go down to like Atlanta, Georgia, you're gonna see a lot of people that look like me. You come out to a place like this, you won't see as many people. It's just geography and how mapping works out sometimes. But back when the Floyd protests were really breaking out during the summer of 2020, I had a couple who had booked me for that August for a small wedding ceremony with a couple family members and yada yada yada. And in June of that year, that's when like people were really like ramping up and being vocal and like saying their piece about how they felt about everything, actually taking a stand. And it was inspiring to me to finally like speak up and say what I've always wanted to say. And it was June of that year. I remember it vividly because it was June of that year when the protests were breaking out, and it was also Pride Month. So I was sharing a bunch of stuff for Pride, like a lot of like gay positive businesses and trying to like like help amplify whatever voices I could from that community. And the couple in August actually asked me for a refund because they said that they couldn't do business with somebody who had a theology like mine. And I was like, okay, I will respectfully, as a professional, give you back your money because you asked me to, and because ideologically we don't align. But there's two things here that it's got to be. It's either got to be that you don't like how vocal I am for Black Lives Matter, which, based off my melanin, yeah, no shit, of course I am. Or two, you don't like that I'm sharing stuff that is celebrating Pride Month for a disenfranchised group that I'm trying to help give spotlights to and just do my part and celebrate their stories and their love. Either which way, the way I look at it is, even though might have lost business from that, and God knows how much business I probably have lost in the meantime just from my random postings about like this or that, or things that don't have anything to do with my business. At the end of the day, it's not important for me to get as many bookings as possible because I don't want, for lack of a better term, to ever get blood money. Like if I am to have a wedding that had a bunch of like MAGA like decorations or people who are like very like bigoted or homophobic in their rhetoric and that kind of like mentality, I don't want to go to those spaces. I don't want to go in a place like that. I mean, I will have to say, and forgive me for this hot take, most of the weddings I do now, when I walk into them, it feels like I'm in that scene from Get Out with the bingo, like the bingo auction, which like that's just meant to be more of like that's the reality of what it is. But the last thing I want to do is to walk into any kind of like situation and just feel like morally, I'm like, I don't align with these people. I don't know if I should even be here in the first place.
Yeah. And how powerful is that to be able to sit in that and to fully embrace that? Because I think we've talked about this in the podcast before of we don't always as new like when you're newer you're like, oh, I'm going to take everything and I'm just going to be super vanilla and super in the middle and just kind of accept everything because you're so desperate for money. But really, once you start to break out and you say, no, like, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to deal with a couple that doesn't align with me. Like, you're not going to want to work with that couple anyway. They fired you and you're like, great, good riddance. Like, I don't want to be a part of this anyway. So I think that's really powerful. Is there something that you can say of encouragement to anyone who might be cautious about being real with the world and like being honest about, how they feel and maybe they are trying to get the blood money? Like what kind of encouragement do you want to send to them so that they're not doing that?
The same way that you would say no to a couple who you don't want their business from is almost in the same way of like the same kind of feeling or vibe that you get from a couple who, or not like a couple, but like from the first time you get like somebody who paid double your rate. I can't just like quite put into words how to explain it, but it's almost like the same power of setting up that boundaries. Like a lot of us have issues with imposter syndrome, like, wanting to be as successful as the guy next to us, looking over there and being like, oh my gosh, like this person just like got like 10 bookings in like France and they are like doing the exact same thing I'm doing. How am I not being like that? And the thing that I can say to that is the only time you should be looking in your neighbor's bowl is to make sure they have enough. I have tried so hard to be everything for everyone all the time, but a friend to everyone is a friend to no one. I have tried really hard to figure out the balance of like, well, what should I do for my business versus what should I do for my people? Like, how do I make sure I can find that balance? And at the end of the day, you're always going to end up disappointing somebody, whether you like it or not. It's inevitable, it's human, it is what it is. I would say that if you at the end of the day can rest a little easier knowing that you are being authentic and true to your innermost self, you don't really have to worry about the repercussions or the lack of money or everything that comes in afterwards. You can at least look at yourself and know, no, this is true to who I am and this is what I wanted to do. And I got to be the one to say yes or no. It's like the first time you get to tell your parents, like, no, I actually won't be eating that because you know why? I pay my own bills now and I live in my own house. So you can make somebody else eat that, mom.
That's a perfect analogy.
There's so much power in that, right? Like I also grew up in a very Catholic family. I went K-12 Catholic school, like very Catholic.
Yeah.
um,
Oh, yeah.
but I'm also in the space where I truly believe in, everybody should find their true love, and it doesn't matter what they look like or who they love or how many people. Like, I think they should just love how they want to love, and we cannot tell them that's okay or not. And so I remember having arguments with my parents because I grew up in the theater and I had a lot of friends that were gay very young. And we had arguments about, transgender and if that was okay or not, and gay marriage, yes or no. And I remember having very deep, also like crying because I'm like, why don't you listen to me? Like, there's nothing wrong with this, mom and dad. But it's just, there's so much power in that of speaking your truth and finally owning that, because I think that it can feel like sad to stand there and like step back and not do anything. I know I feel a lot of frustration feeling like I can't do anything. Like there's nothing I can do to change this. And so reminding ourselves that just speaking up, just being a positive ally, just sharing your opinion and not giving your money or taking money from people you don't support is like rebellion in itself. Like that in itself is making a difference, because it does feel like sometimes like there's nothing I can do. I'm just one person in this huge world. I can't change anything.
Well, and that's the hardest part is that we, especially again, not to be the old man like ranting at a cloud, but the internet being as big of a scope as it is, we just feel so powerless, or we feel like unless we do something of like a significance that it goes viral or people are talking about it, what difference does it make? Like in the movie Schindler's List, I think the quote goes, "To save one child is to save the entire world." And I have been really trying to rehome my philosophy and really trying to like figure out like, well, what can I do? Like I can't go out there and, make like $1 million that I get to then just like send aid and relief to Gaza or do all this stuff. I just can't do it. I could try, but it might like cost me a lot more in the end, or it might eat me alive. What I can do is I can at least keep the conversation going, keep communications active, talk to my friends and my family, my community, like check in with my neighbors, see where they're at, like philosophy wise, theological wise. I'm not here to pressure anyone to see my way or follow my will and whim, but I am here to like let them know that this isn't just something that they might be thinking nobody else cares about. People do care. It's punk rock to care and to be kind, like how they said in the new Superman movie, but it also takes a lot more to make sure that you can actually go out there and have those uncomfortable interactions. Whether or not it's going to change anything doesn't matter, but the fact that you're keeping it alive is what keeps it going. And even doing like little things like my partner and I back in June here in Eugene, they had the Pride Fest, and we're like, oh my gosh, we haven't been to a Pride celebration since like when we were like dating in our 20s. So let's take the kids, might be fun, let's check it out. And now my 5-year-old daughter likes to ask people out of nowhere, like, who's your favorite drag queen? It's like, babe, people don't really have that answer locked and loaded. So you gotta like ease them into it first.
That's fantastic. No, I love that you're, exposing them early to, yeah, being a better human and just caring about other people, especially marginalized groups for sure. I feel like that's got to be a tough thing as a parent too, to navigate a lot of that, and find ways of communicating, yeah, communicating values and empathy and all of that, for sure.
Oh yeah, and again, I'm not perfect. I will tell you first and foremost, and I will tell anyone I meet that I am not perfect. Like, there's a great quote Chuck Palahniuk wrote in his book Invisible Monsters that I love to tell people is nothing of me is original. I'm the perfect imitation of every person I've ever met. Like I'm literally just borrowing themes, ideas, things that I like where I'm like, oh, I like that. I wonder if I could put a personal spin on it and make it better. So I by no means think what I'm doing as a parent is perfect or like exactly right all the time. Lord knows that, you know, playing Tribe Called Quest unedited around them might have done some damage to their vernacular, but we're learning as we go along. But I will say that I want my kids to just be better than I ever could be. Like I want them to have a better life than me. I want them to take the good parts of me, only the good parts, hopefully, and go on and do something better with that. Like, like plant the trees that I might not be able to see, like rest in the shade for, but one day they get to. And so long as my kids aren't watching Caillou or Cocomelon, I feel like I really won. Fuck Caillou and Cocomelon. If that's any takeaway from this podcast, that is me dying on this hill. Like, I will gladly burn at the stake for that because both those shows are goddamn evil. Caillou got bald for a reason. Okay, that kid is a bad person.
As a non-parent, I don't know that I fully understand, but I will.
Oh no, 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 no. You don't have to understand now. Just like take my impassioned plea and just know that I feel really strong about this way for a reason. And you have to trust me, it is a good reason. It's like when people tell you Jared Leto's a bad person and you haven't looked into it, but you're like, huh, okay, maybe I just have to keep that little nugget in the back of my mind.
For sure, for sure. I feel like yeah, all of this is just, it keeps coming back to this idea that the world is complex. There's a lot of hurt right now. And I feel as though the wedding industry tries to gloss over a lot of that because it tries to be this like space of like, oh, everything's fine and we're just going to have a great wedding day and, nothing in the world is wrong. And while, I do love that especially in the queer space, there's a lot of talk about, joy is resistance, right? I feel like there is room for that. I think that the problem lies when we try to ignore everything that's
Mhm.
going wrong, right? And I don't know, pretend like nothing's going wrong. Like, do you feel like there are other things, that the wedding industry is kind of not talking about that they should be?
Gosh, there's literally so many things that they could be talking about that they're not. But realistically, at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, it's just the fact that people who are dialed into what's happening. Like, you don't have to be a 24/7 advocate or share stuff nonstop that doesn't align with your business but reflects the real world because honestly, sometimes as a business owner myself, it might not make sense or it might not be the time to. But even if you can just be somebody who's all like, hey, like what Trump's doing right now is really fucked up and it's really messing up America, that's one thing. But those people who want to pretend everything is fine, oh no, it's great. Weddings are amazing. We're all so happy. La la la. That's the where the problem lies. I can't name names here. I will not because you guys know me as Sky. Like Sky Waters followed me on Instagram, and she knows that she has seen on Mondays. I'll share Reddit wedding horror stories from like people's personal experiences or anonymous vendors. Or even people who just need a space to vent and be like, oh my God, I cannot stand this person because they share this kind of stuff. And I'll get screenshots and whatnot. It is baffling to me to see the number of vendors who are silent, but then secretly compliant with the current status quo, like how things are going or how they, like some people voted for Trump and they will never own up to it now, or they'll never admit to it, but they benefit from what's happening in the world. It's those people, the ones where it's like, I don't believe all people are being silent because they want to only celebrate the good stuff and celebrate weddings. I think some might also be like being silent because they're actually relieved with the way things are going. I also know that it's not easy to speak up about stuff that aligns with weddings. What I ultimately am trying to say is both things can be true at the same time. We can celebrate weddings and we can have this gorgeous day or follow these fun trends or come up with be very proud of like, this photo that you got of the couple or this like after reception like moment or this flat lay. And then still acknowledge at the same time, like, yes, the house is on fire. Like, like, oh, hey, this shit's burning down, but oh my God, this lighting right now is beautiful. Let me just like do a couple quick snaps right there and get that online.
Yeah, I just wonder if there's like too much ambivalence too, because I mean, aside from some people who probably voted differently, there are also half the country did not vote at all. So we also have to keep in mind how many people are just sitting there, on their day to day, in their business, planning the wedding, all these different things. And they're just like, nope, just, yeah, straight up fog. Like I'm not going to pay attention to it. It doesn't bother me. It doesn't affect me. And I feel like that's the biggest that's the biggest lie, right? Is that it's
Mhm.
affecting all of us, whether we realize it or not. It's affecting our industry. It's affecting people we love. It's affecting our couples. And yeah, especially hearing from, especially both of you coming from, a Catholic background, I keep coming back to, and I feel like just like you said, where like, all the things that you hear from other people, I'm sure I've heard different pieces of this, so I can't give myself credit for this thought. But anybody that says that they don't, document queer weddings because of their religion, I want to ask them, have you ever photographed a non-Christian wedding then? Like, have you ever photographed a wedding of a different religion? Because that's exactly what you're saying. Like
Hmm.
that would be super hypocritical of you to be like, oh yes, I love, you know, yeah, every other wedding except for this one kind of love, right?
Hmm.
So
Which again, it's baffling because when you start using their own logic against them, that's when all of a sudden the conversation stops, or they no longer want to talk to you about it, or they're just like, well, we just have to agree to disagree. It's like, no, 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 no. Like, run that back real quick. You are telling me that due to your religion, you cannot photograph this type of wedding, although you are advertising yourself as a person who will photograph any and every type of blood, except for this one little nugget. That's why, again, it's almost like, trying to do the anti-establishment thing of, instead of being the one who lets people kind of like fill in the blanks or put in guesswork on like what I stand for or what I might believe in or what I like. I will be very vocal with the things I like, the things I love, the people I want to celebrate, the things I want to do, to the point where people are almost like bored of me, where it's like, oh no, no, he's not interesting. He may be tall, dark, but the mysterious part, like, that's not at all accurate about him. I will say the most mysterious thing about me, speaking of which, is people asking me how I managed to get by without a website, which still baffles people to this day.
that was me. I'm pretty sure that was one of my first interactions with you.
I
Well,
mean,
but we're gonna make it happen one of these days. We're gonna make it
one of
happen.
these days, sure. But it's like, what's the proper like business nomenclature to tell someone I'm built different? Like, I don't know.
You can still showcase that you're different on a website.
Oh no, I absolutely could.
Yeah.
And believe me, I when I say I'm losing money because I won't do bigoted weddings, I'm probably losing just as much money by not letting people know I'm out there and existing. But yeah, like I always say, I want to be a dive bar that withstands the test of time. In the same kind of simile, I want to be a Waffle House that doesn't have good lighting because people know what they're up to when they go into a Waffle House.
Oh, I love it. I love all
Caitlin
your
looks like she's just
analogies.
dying over there.
It's great. I love the analogies. These are wonderful.
Listen, when your job is to write, you have to do a lot of reading, listen to a lot of different stuff, and just like put together and weave. Like, it's almost like a cosmic gumbo. You just got to get in there and just like throw together and see what you can do.
Yeah, you've even mentioned like being a writer on several of your posts. Like, do you write other things other than ceremonies, or is this just where it all comes out? Like, this is just your thing.
Oh, this is my outlet. This is all my outlet. Back in my college days, I did have a Tumblr and I would usually write and post on there. Don't anybody bother looking that up. I deleted all that shit. That stuff went scorched earth. If somebody manages to find it, I will send a like, like NDA on your ass. Like, don't even try it because I don't want to go back to 18-year-old Jimmy. Like, he was young and dumb and just full of optimism and had his energy in the wrong places. I don't need to go back to that kid.
You got to start a Substack. I've heard Substack is like all the rage right now.
I could. I was thinking like, oh man, if like all these photographers and all of these people love smutty romance novels, why not just take what I do now and just make like a smutty version of that? I could lean into that, but I don't know how to market that as still being a wholesome, family-friendly officiant. So, maybe I'm gonna do a Garth Brooks, Chris Gaines kind of thing. We'll see.
With yeah, being so creative and being able to pull out a lot of like quotes and references and all that stuff. Tell me a little bit more about how you even do that, like with like writing your ceremonies. What all goes into making that, yeah, more non-traditional, more customized for the couple? What all goes into that writing process?
So for the writing process for my couples for their ceremony scripts, I really just get to know the two of them as best as I can. I have a couples questionnaire that I send their way, just like I know you guys all do, but mine is more detail oriented. Like, how did you guys meet? What are some of your favorite things to do as a couple? What are three silly habits that each of you have? What's a fun fact about the both of you? And it's just like my way of kind of like planting little seeds that I can then water on, like whether it's through phone calls or text or just exchanges over email and IG, to really see who my couple is, even to the point where like I've done so many ceremonies that after the fact the family will come up to me and be like, oh my gosh, that was the best wedding ceremony I've ever seen. You're a friend of the couple, right? And I'm like, I'm actually a hired vendor. And they're like, how did that happen? Or me being the peaky, non-serious person I am, especially when I'm like really feeling myself at the high of like, my euphoria, I'll be like, oh, well, actually, me and the bride were half siblings. See, mom had some wild years back in college. UCLA was in town. Facebook reconnected us, and now I'm here. That's just more so that way the family has like some very interesting table discussions later on. And my favorite personally is when I would say that jokingly to the couple, and I'll hear from a couple be like, oh my God, my mom's gay. That story is amazing. Please go with that. That would be so funny.
That's hilarious. That's hilarious. I love it.
So part of the writing process is not only like getting to know the two of them, but also knowing what they like. Like, what are some of your favorite bands? What are some quotes that I could use? Like, are there any like TV shows or movies between the two of you that you guys quote all the time? Do you have inside jokes? Like, it's amazing how much you get to know people really by the things that they like. Like, it's almost like in the sense of going back to like a childhood bedroom and being like, oh, seeing like what posters are up on the wall. Like, oh my gosh, Jonathan Taylor Thomas. I haven't thought about that guy in a minute. Or being able to like, listen to the music that they listen to and that they like. I had a couple who got married last month. I'm trying to remember the Washington Castle place. It's like just right out, like right past the military base right there. It's like Lakeshore. No, it's not Lakeshore. It's like Lakewood or something like that. And one of the things that this couple was really passionate about was the video game Skyrim, which I'd never played before in my life, but I like, online, I had friends who played it and were obsessed with it. And so for me, I was like, all right, well, if I'm really gonna like understand like what this thing is that the two of them loves, like let me play this game for a little bit. And their wedding was a month ago, and now I'm still playing this goddamn game, and it's a lot of fun. And I'm really mad I didn't do it sooner. But then being able to sprinkle in like little things in their ceremony, like, like, oh, under Mara's eye, we gather today for this wedding ceremony. And instantly I could see out of the corner of my eye, both the bride and groom are just like beaming with like smiles because they're like, oh yeah, that's a good reference. That's something that we like. It's also funny because with how social media has kind of manipulated us, we all kind of think we're not as interesting or as exciting or significant in any kind of way. And my job is to be like, no, 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 no. You're cool. You just don't remember how cool you are. So let's kind of like dig deep into that. It's just like having a conversation with somebody, but actually retaining the information that you have from the conversation. Because we're so quick to be like, talk to this person, move on, talk to this person, move on. My job is to talk to this person and then in front of their closest family and friends talk about them and then this other person and now talking about how their story and the new chapter that we're going to be writing together.
Yeah, I feel like that's really thoughtful.
Yeah, thank you. I will say it's my job to tell storytelling in the written form, just like it's the photographer's job to tell the story in the eye form, like in the viewing form. Like my thing is that I'm there to take us all back on like a journey and like memories and the callbacks to the story that brings us up to that day. But then the photographer gets to take the photos that one day end up on the wall in the home, the ones that the kids are going to look back on and be like, this is the story that I want to tell my children someday.
Yeah, and it makes the ceremony more personal, more memorable in my mind, because then it's not just like, yeah, the typical, oh, let's read a quote from something, some book or some movie, just something generic, and then like, oh, now it's your
Yeah.
turn to speak, and yeah, it really kind of, I think, adds a little extra to that. And I love that you've even had people come up to you and be like, oh, so like you must be friends. Well, we are, but like I was a hired vendor first.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the biggest like compliment too. Like, being told like, "Oh my gosh, that ceremony was great" is one thing, but having people be utterly confused that I wasn't friends or like family members with the couple beforehand, that is the highest praise I can get. Like just being able to like insinuate that you mustn't be somebody who got paid for the ceremony. You had to belong to them from before. That's a big, big level of praise. You can't even put like a price tag on that. My personal favorite is when I have photographers who I have yet to work with, but they might not know who I am. Not to say that in any kind of braggadocio way, maybe a little, but not at all. And they'll come up to me and be like, okay, so I have a favor to ask. Do you think you can step out of the way for the kiss at the end? Like, I know that's like one thing that like a lot of people might forget to do. So I'm just
You're
asking if you
like,
can do that.
you don't even know. You don't even know.
In my mind, I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry, you must not know who I am. And it's funny because whenever Meg, like I tell her that, like, oh yeah, this photographer asked me to step out of the way at the end of the ceremony. She's like, you should have just told him that's what you're known for. But for me, it's a lot funnier to be like, yeah, sure, I can do that. And then later on, when they find me on like Instagram for tags and stuff, they'll be like, oh, okay, this is the real, like this guy's the real deal.
Yeah, it's so fun. I feel like, following your stories is always there's always something new. And like over time I've noticed, not just the being famous for, jumping into lakes and stuff, but yeah, the seal it with a shot, I feel like has like sparked a whole new trend, a whole new idea that, even you sharing the other day, you're like, oh, it's like our, my couple's anniversary and we're doing it virtually and stuff. And that just cracked me up.
Oh God, the virtual one hurts the most because that couple, we did a shot of Malort. Are you ladies familiar with what Malort is?
No.
No.
Oh God, okay. So listen, Caitlin, I don't know if you're going to Wedding MBA. If you are, I'll make sure to bring some with me. But Malort is this liqueur that was made back in the 1800s by a brewmaster who was a hardcore alcoholic. But over time, this dude lost his sense of taste and he kept drinking anyways. But then he realized that he really enjoyed not only getting drunk, but the biting sensation of the alcohol itself. So he invents this liqueur that's made out of wormwood and grapefruit. And it is one of the nastiest things you will ever drink, but it is memorable beyond belief. Like, think of like a toxic relationship. Like, no matter how better your life gets or how much more like enjoyable everything else becomes, you look back on that time period and you're like, oh no, that was bad. That was just not good at all. That's what Malort is. And we, as the three of us, did a shot on Malort. Kaylin, I will make sure to send you over the exact Instagram of the photos of me and this couple doing the shot on Malort because you can just see the pain on our faces. We do it every year. It's awful, but it's one of my favorite traditions, and I look forward to it every single year.
So fun. Just, we love to torture ourselves sometimes. It's worth it, right?
Oh
For
no.
our couples.
Oh, it's well, let's just gaslight ourselves and being like, no, this is meaningful or this is significant. Like it's I am literally, excuse me, I'm not trying to be rude or anything, but literally here are some of the slogans for this drink for Malort. What are some slogans for Malort? The champagne of pain. Malort, the Gary, Indiana of liquor. Malort, tonight's the night you fight your dad. Malort, better than being sober, I guess. Malort, no. Malort, ever wanted to taste TV static? Now's your chance.
TV static. Jesus Christ.
And this is even one where this is my personal one favorite one is Malort. Turn your taste buds into taste foes.
That's crazy. So that's got to be the strangest, liqueur that you've had or liquor that you've had as a shot, or is there anything that's been stranger than that?
Oh, see, that's a good question. So I would say Malort is probably the worst shot I've ever had, but as far as shots have gone, I've done homemade mead just last summer. Really good. He's a really good friend of mine now. He's actually a groom who hired me for his wedding, and then him and I have actually become like best buds. Him and I text almost daily. Gabe, if you're listening to this, I love you, homie. And he is a chef who actually brewed and made his own homemade mead for the ceremony. So we did a shot of that. I've done as a surprise for a couple who was going to announce their baby announcement afterwards. I've done shots of Capri Sun, so it looked like we were doing shots of alcohol during the ceremony. But then during family photos, the bride whips out a little onesie, and the moms are screaming and freaking out, and then wanting to chastise her, being like, "Oh, you did a shot of alcohol," and she's like, "Psych, it was actually Capri Sun, haha." And then like that whole thing. I've done shots of chocolate milk. I've done shots of Pedialyte. I've done shots of trying to think what else have I done? Kombucha. I don't care for kombucha, and honestly, this is going to sound very pointed. I swear to God, you white women with your goddamn kombuchas and your matcha lattes are trying to make me feel like there's something wrong with me with how much you guys love them. No, listen, Kaylin, I can see you cracking up over there. You know what I'm talking about, okay? I don't get it.
I'm not one of them.
No, thank you. Okay.
I am not a kombucha or matcha person, but I know a lot of friends who are, so I get it.
It's to the point where you almost like are like reassessing yourself. You're like, well, if everyone else likes it, what is wrong with me? Like, why don't I like it? I think kombucha's spicy tea. I don't want spicy tea, so I'm good with that. And I'm trying to think what else I've done. I've done even like little things like shots of water. One thing that is really rare that I've done for ceremonies before that I actually enjoy is the unity snack, which is a lesser known tradition that existed before me. It existed before I started doing the seal with the shot. And essentially it's a symbolic gesture of a couple or two individuals uniting together during this ceremony to bring like how food's a commonplace that brings us together. So I had a couple where we did like bread as like a symbolism. I had another couple who were friends of mine from back in my Dutch Bros days that asked me to be their wedding officiant, and as a surprise for them during the ceremony we did a unity snack, which was a Taco Bell soft taco. Like I just whipped out three of them from my pocket and the three of us just like took a little nibble out of them. And Taco Bell still hasn't gotten back to me on sponsorship, but they don't know what they're missing out on.
One of these days.
Oh yeah, one of these days when they finally realize what they had, I'm gonna just like play Rihanna's "Take a Bow" and be like, "You look so dumb right now." I will say, if either of you have the chance of finding anything weird or bizarre as far as going to do a seal with shot four, and I have a couple who's down, let's really try and boost those numbers there. Like maybe we'll even like try and take a poll online and be like, "Hey, what's the weirdest thing we can take a shot of?" and then just make it going.
Yeah, we can make a thing of it.
Easily. Next week, I'll be in Chicago doing a speakers thing, and I'm actually going to bring Malort with me to do a shot with all those who want to do a shot with it. It's going to be interesting because I'm going to encourage them, be like, hey, this is a great piece for social media. So I want you all to take a video right now, set your phones up, and then let's just do a shot together and just like do like a Malort based like shot reaction. I have in the past done shots of M&Ms with the officiants during these workshops because the M&M store lets you put whatever you want on an M&M. So I had my face put on the M&Ms and we did a shot of that. You know me well enough by now to know that the kind of person I am trying to do the best I can to give myself away and make people feel loved. And who am I to deny everyone to take a little bit of that chocolatey goodness that is me and have with them later on? So, I was put on this earth for a reason to do that. So I had to do it to them.
I feel like everything that comes out of your mouth, I just shouldn't be surprised at anything anymore.
That's actually that's my greatest like goal in life, is to just do stuff to the point where people are like no longer fazed by seeing me and this or that. Like I was shooting a documentary for wedding officiants last year for an elopement that we were on, and like a buddy of mine was like sending me some screenshots and stuff, and I remember sharing them on IG, and a friend of mine being like, "Of fucking course you're going to be in a documentary," and I was like, "Hey, it has not been picked up by anybody. This shit could go nowhere, but it's just funny to gauge reactions like that."
I just love that you're so authentic. Like, this is amazing. So thank you. Thank you for just being real with us and making us all laugh. This is amazing. We had some good conversations as well, but I just feel like you showing up authentically just makes it so much easier for us to show up authentically. And hopefully anyone who's listening can be like, hey, look at Jimmie's doing it. I can do it.
Yeah, no, and that's my biggest takeaway from all of this. Like, even with the way I run my business and just who I am as a person, is I want anyone to see what I'm doing in any capacity in life and feel inspired to do the exact same thing. Like, I am not trying to punch down on myself or, like be self-deprecating, but if I can do it, anyone can do it. It's like how did the great Gusteau once say in Ratatouille? Anyone can cook. That's my philosophy in life. Anyone can fucking cook.
No, I think that's great. We're so glad that you were up for coming on and talking about a variety of things, even stuff that might be ignored in the wedding industry right now, and coming on and being yourself. We really appreciate it.
Oh yeah. Hey, just always out here reminding my people to spread the love, free Palestine, drink your water, and trans rights are human rights. Do not forget it, okay, people? These aren't just
Yes.
buzzwords, these are facts of life. Okay. Trans people have always existed and will always continue to fucking exist. You can't do a goddamn thing about it. So mind your own beeswax for a sec.
Let them be. Come on.
Yeah. I mean, as the kids say, let them cook.
Let them cook. Well, with that, thank you so much for being here with us. And this was amazing. We are so grateful for you. And if anyone's curious about Jimmie, anything that he's doing, we'll put information in the show notes. And we're so glad that you're all listening. Thanks so much. We'll hear from you next time.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.